Okay. Okay. Big cameras. 16:9 and rule of thirds. What have I done already? Okay, these are all bad TV habits. This is like 2019, right? You guys are all on Instagram, you're all scrolling through Snapchat, Facebook, you consume all your stuff on YouTube, on Netflix. That's how we all do it, right? So this is a brand new world, and those rules don't like apply anymore, okay? You don't need to stick to them. My name is Andy Burgess. I'm an internet filmmaker, a storyteller. I direct, I edit, I host all my own stuff, whatever you want to call me. And before we get into this talk, I'm going to quickly play you guys a little example of my work. So this is a trailer from my Instagram TV series from last summer, just to give you guys a bit of context about the videos I make, and then we'll jump into this whole thing. This is awkward. There we go. So I didn't go to film school. I didn't study film growing up. I didn't buy my first camera until last year. I actually studied here. I studied popular music. But I always loved film, and I was always creative and always wanted to make movies. And in 2016, I took a trip to Switzerland, and I decided I was going to start trying to make movies on my phone, on Snapchat. So I started making these 10-second clips on Snapchat, putting them together, and just trying to make a story out of it, because people weren't telling stories on stories. And I got addicted to it. All I wanted to do was make these videos every single day. And then last year, I was nominated at the Shorty Awards for Snapchat of the Year. These are these big social media awards in New York. And that was awesome. And I'm gonna kind of jump into the journey of how I got from making that first Snapchat story to what I do now. But first of all, it all started back here in 2012. Yeah, was it 2012? Yeah, 2012, University of Gloucestershire. I was studying popular music. This was the band I was in called No Atlas. And yeah, I was a drummer in the band. And I think my kind of work ethic and being able to do what I wanted to do at that time, which was music, the uni gave me that opportunity to just really jump in on it and take advantage of it. So in our first couple of months, we went into the studio, you guys have that newer studio now. But in that studio, we recorded all 3 of our EPs. The first one we recorded in the first couple of months of being at uni. This is me and Ollie just doing some crazy stuff with, I don't know what, 2 bass drums there or something. And we used to play all over Cheltenham. We used to play around London. We used to tour a lot. This was our EP launch in FCH, and they got mad at us because we put our hexagon logo thing up on the wall. We taped it up, and then we took it off, and it tore all the paint, and they had to repaint it. So that was a lot of fun. That was the 3 years I was at uni, and we just took advantage of every moment we had where we could be creating or making music and putting it around the course. We're okay, well, we have to do this module, so why don't we focus that around the band, and then we get some EPs and stuff out of it. So I'm gonna quickly play you maybe 2-3 minutes of a song, which was I guess the one that people liked most, that we played at the end of all our shows. We recorded it in Park, and this was we just got our friend Dom in, who was, I think he was on a film course, and he just came in with one camera, and we're hey, will you just film us, and we'll put this up as a session video or whatever. So this is that video. It should just play. What is, there we go. So that was, actually now looking at that as like a filmmaker, I'm like, oh, we probably could have done a bit more of that. But I like the raw, like just one camera thing. We were like, oh, Dom's on this film course, he's in the building, let's just pull him in and let's just like shoot this video and we can put it out, boom, we have some content. And then we have like a live version of this song that we wanted. So that's kind of the approach that we always took. We were always like quite forward thinking and wanting to just like try and make the most of these things. And then if you were in my talk yesterday, you know that like after uni, like the band kind of fizzled out. I was sessioning for a bit, but like I then kind of wanted to, also when you're in a band, like you have to run things through like 3 different people. It's like, oh, do you want to do this gig? Yeah, yeah. Oh, I can't, it's my like auntie's birthday or something. And then you're like, okay, so you can't do a show. There's like lots of things like that. With me, I was like, oh, I can do this all on my own. And then that's when I started playing around with Snapchat in Switzerland. I'm going to play you, I'm not going to play it all because it's really bad, but I'm going to play you a couple of seconds of the first story I ever did on that trip in Switzerland, and then I'll play you the intro to one of my Instagram TV episodes from last year, and you can like, see the difference. Every time. There's no sound. This is like tacky, just playing around with it. But I was having fun. This is way too long. Not interesting content. I'm not even going to let you listen to me talking because it's really bad. That's a terrible fisheye. And then this is a video I made at the end of last year. So this was when I went out to Los Angeles because my friend Yusuf there texted me and he's like, hey, we need to make a scissor reel for our startup company. We have a pitch in 2 weeks in Los Angeles. We fly out today and do that. And I was like, sure. So I flew out and then we spent 2 weeks or whatever making their promo video. And that's not what I do full time. I am a full-time creator. I get to work with some brands that I never thought I would work with, like, especially when I was at uni, like hearing these names, they're just like these huge names. I'm like, how the hell would I even get into this or this kind of world? And when I moved to New York in January of 2017. So this was after Snapchat had started to like, I had a little bit of like exposure, I guess, on the platform. And I was like, I'm just going to go to New York for a couple of months. I have some money saved up. Let's do it and just see what happens. And it just happened to align that I was doing a lot on Snapchat and people were starting to notice me. 2 weeks into being in New York, I met a guy called Josh from NASDAQ. NASDAQ are like a big stocks company in the US. And at the time, they were doing a lot on Snapchat and they were covering Snapchat creators. And they were like, hey, do you want to come in and do a takeover of our account? And then we'll put your Snap code up in the middle of Times Square. So that was 2 weeks after moving to New York. And just this guy who was just starting out. And all the creators on Snapchat saw this. The community wasn't that big. And they were like, who's this British dude who's just like showed up on the scene that we know nothing about? And the same with some of these brands. And a bit later on, I'm going to sort of tell you how I sort of built those relationships and how those things panned out. So 2017, that happened, and I started working with a ton of other brands, and then people started to like pay me to travel to places and make videos, and I was like, wow, this is like a proper thing. My dad saw that NASDAQ thing, so I've heard of NASDAQ, yeah, I guess this is a way that you can make money or whatever. So I continued to do that for the rest of 2017. I made a video every single day of that year on Snapchat. And at the start, they were probably like that first one I showed you. But from just doing it every single day, I got a little bit better, or I learned something else, or I tried a new technique, or my storytelling got better. And I kept doing that for the whole year. And then at the end of that year, I was like, okay, 2018, I want to focus on bigger projects. I want to spend more time building out stories and going on trips. But instead of like telling a story every single day, why don't I make like a wrap up of like a trip or something? So for example, I went to Rio in May, and instead of making a video like every single day, I just made a wrap-up video at the end. So I took all the shots I had, I planned out the story, and I put that together. And that's ended up being what this Rio video was. And then Instagram TV launched, and I decided to go in hard on it because its vertical video. It was on Instagram, which is kind of where I pivoted to after Snapchat kind of like dropped down. And I made a whole season on there all about travel and travel filmmaking and like freelancing and behind the scenes. It's a bit meta, but there's stuff in there from like trips all over the world, from Helsinki, Los Angeles, to Germany, and like a lot of it is also like behind the scene tips. So a lot of my audience on Instagram are like creators as well. They make videos, they make art, they make music. And I kind of just like, one, show them these nice, beautiful places, but then I also like talk about like how we shot a brand video, for example, or like the gear I use and like those kind of things. And then from traveling, I've been able to meet a ton of amazing people, and I really wanted to build this out. So what I want to do now is I want to start making Vox-style short explainer videos about issues around the world or social problems, or like, but make it really beautiful that people want to watch it and it's interesting, but there's some depth to it. Because this year I've been to quite a few interesting places that have kind of blown my mind. In January, I was in, if it's going to play, I was in Palestine. And I met this guy called Shihada. And Shihada is a violin maker in Ramallah, Palestine. And he builds violins and he fixes up old ones and he takes them into the refugee camps to give to the children, to teach children how to play music. It's a really cool thing. But the way he learned to make these violins is he came to Florence and he came to London. And he was shocked when he came to the UK and Italy because he could go wherever he wanted. He had spent 24 years of his life living in Palestine under occupation, where if he wanted to go visit his friends in the next city, he'd have to go through checkpoints, or there would be guards there, or soldiers, and they'd stop him. Sometimes it would take days, and then war, and all these things just in this very like tight vicinity. So he was shocked when he came to the UK because he thought the whole world just lived like Palestine. And that blew my mind. Hearing this, like we take it for granted, it's every day. But hearing it from his point of view was crazy. And last month, I was in Bangladesh. And I told two stories out there. I was teaching university students there how to use Instagram stories, how to tell their story of what was going on. So the first one was at this shelter for these young girls. So in Bangladesh, from a young age, children are forced into work. They're either working in factories, rolling cigarettes, in restaurants, and in worst cases, they're trafficked. And this shelter took all these young girls that had been left by their parents or found on the streets or had been like forced into work. And they bring them into the shelter and they teach them English, they teach them how to defend themselves, they teach them how to like kind of prepare and have a better life so they can grow up in a world where they can like have opportunities and stuff. So we wanted to tell this story about like these unsung heroes and change makers. And then the second one is in the world's biggest refugee camp. So I went out there with my friend Yusuf, who you saw before, and we made these videos for #OurStories, which is a media brand that tells these stories of unsung heroes and change makers, innovators. So this video, when we were out there, I shot, produced, and edited it. And Yusuf hosted it. So I just want to play that a bit to you, and then like hopefully that video explains a bit more about this story and the type of work that I'm currently working on.
Welcome to Cox's Bazaar. At 120 kilometers, it's the world's longest undivided beach. But it's also home to the world's largest refugee camp, with over 1 million people. Where do you live? How long have you been living here? This story will teach you about a country with a big heart for refugees. This is Kutakalo, is currently the world's biggest refugee camp. Violence erupted in neighboring Myanmar, largely driven by extremist Buddhist monks. That led to the exodus of hundreds of thousands of Rohingya families. There was recently an interview with the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, and the journalist asked her, isn't Bangladesh already a poor and overpopulated country? And her response was absolutely beautiful.
Yes, Bangladesh is not a rich country, it's true. We have 160 million people in this small land. if we can feed 260 million people, another 500 or 700,000 people, we can do it. We can share our food. We are ready to do it.
Politicians around the world are using fear-mongering tactics to scare their populations away from welcoming refugees.
Anti-refugee protesters, anti-immigrant parties are on the rise.
When global governments reject refugees, they say it's a burden on their economy and a threat to their national identity. All along the southern border. And in some respects, people in Bangladesh have similar anxieties.
This is not sustainable. We have shortage of space, we have shortage of food. We can't even feed our own people, whether they're people from outside.
The foreign aid stops coming. What's going to happen then? Because the stigma around the Rohingya people still exists. What's the future plan? How will these people be sustainable?
The government recently told the UN it can't handle any more refugees. But despite government policy that the country has reached maximum capacity, many Bangladeshis still show empathy.
Bangladesh lacks refugees because Bangladesh is a peaceful country.
We have many limitations. We want to help others. Border side should be open because they are in crisis.
Bangladesh is very kindest people.
Bangladeshis are friendly and civil. Myanmar is nearest country of Bangladesh. That's why we are so much emotion and to see their vulnerability.
In our limited resource, we can solve the problem by the help of our friend country.
Bangladesh is a poor country. It's an overpopulated country. It's very short on resources. But yet, when you ask a Bangladeshi how they feel about refugees, they say,
So that's just like a positive explain a video about the situation that's going on in Bangladesh. And it's quite different from the videos I started making with my phone. And like they're higher quality and we spend longer working on them. But at the end of the day, it still comes back to the main thing, which is the story. Half of that was shot on a phone. There's a shot where we're in the refugee camp and there's like dirt on the camera because it's all dirty. And like part of me was like, oh, we need to redo that. But that was the best take we had. And at the end of the day, what I tell people is, you can have all these fancy cameras. So going back to my opening message, you can have all these fancy cameras and rule of thirds and all those things. You'll learn them down the line. I know them all now, but that's not what matters. You could make a beautiful video using all the best gear and this crazy B-roll. But if there's no story and there's not something I can connect to or engage with, it's meaningless. Like, I don't care about it. Like, so if you have your phone, you can just start with that. This is mainly what I say to like young creators that are coming up and stuff is like literally just go out and do it. Nike have the best slogan to literally just get started and do it. And you guys, it's different for you guys. You're all here at uni. You're already like following your passions and doing these things. But like you're all about to graduate, right? Second, third year. So it's all coming up. And there is a lot of stuff that people don't necessarily tell you. Like when you leave uni, so I figured, let's talk about the unspoken questions, like when you're leaving uni, okay? And then at the end, what I want to do, I want to leave enough time to bring you guys as much value as possible and throw it over to you so I can answer your questions. We can go into detail as much as you want. Or if you want to talk to me afterwards because you don't want to talk in this room about it. I never used to like asking questions and talks. We can talk afterwards. I'm literally open to talking about anything, like even pay, because I think it's important that people know how much you should be paid. So that's the first thing, right? The main thing, what everyone wants to do in life is like, how do I get paid to do what I love? Like, how do I survive? Like, we all want to do something creative, and like, and at the end of the day, it comes down to how do I pay my rent? Like, how do I pay for these bills to continue doing this, right? So I feel like that's the overarching thing. And I want to try and break that down to like a couple of things that I think are important. So the first one is you have to be confident in your work, like fully confident in what you're doing. And it's okay to suck. Those fucking Snapchat videos at the beginning are bad, but they got better and they got better and they got better. And I knew I really wanted to do that. That was the one thing I wanted to do, was make videos. And I absolutely loved it. So go do it, because if no one else is, if you're not confident in yourself, how the hell is a brand or a client or someone like that, why would they care about you? Why do they have confidence in you if you don't, okay? So you gotta find what you wanna do and how much you love it. So to me, for a long time, I thought it was music, and I still love playing music. There's nothing like getting up on stage and playing a gig, right? But over time, I've realized that I clearly didn't have as much of a drive for it as I do for filming and telling stories. So that's kind of where I pivoted. So that's the first one, like being confident in what you do, like 100% owning it. Second one is location. And I thought this may be a controversial thing when I first was coming here to set, but after talking to a lot of people and lecturers, I don't think it is, but I'm going to say it anyway as well. When you leave uni, Cheltenham is not the place to be, right? Depending on what you do, right? I don't like, perhaps there's a specific thing that Cheltenham is really known for, and you want to do that, great. If you want to do something like I do, you want to do video, you want to do music, you want to be in the music industry, the arts, whatever, that kind of thing, this is not the place. You have to get out. And this is why. So when I was finishing uni, I stayed here for a year. I didn't want to go to London. Like, I was living with my girlfriend at the time, and we used to fight all the time, because I wanted to go back to Bristol, and she wanted to go to London. And I was like, I don't want to go to London. It's big and horrible and expensive, and I don't want to do that. And then I went back to Bristol, and then I took that trip to New York. And for some reason, I don't know why, they're both very big cities. I think New York's even bigger. But I love New York, and that's where these opportunities started, right? That's where they were. So that NASDAQ thing happened, basically because I had met someone in London, and she's like, hey, you should meet Josh. Josh works for NASDAQ. She literally put me in a Facebook message with him. 4 messages later, that happened. Like, I was freaking out to myself and didn't tell anyone for like days before it happened, because like, this isn't actually going to happen. But it did. And from that, I got 2 examples, or 2 reasons why location is important. So the first one is a bit of a fluke, but I was in the right location. So after that happened, I was walking through Greenwich Village in New York, maybe like 3 or 4 weeks after being there, walking along with my friend. And then this girl stops me, and she's like, hey, are you Andy? And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm in this huge city. How does this person know who I am? At this point, like, my snaps weren't like that, but like, I wasn't going to be recognized for anything. And she's like, yeah, I saw that NASDAQ piece you did. I work for Forbes, and I run their Snapchat account. And I was like, oh, interesting, right? So we got talking, and I actually left that conversation without getting her, I don't think I got her name or a contact. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? So I literally scrolled through my Snapchat, and I tried, oh no, that's it. I found her I knew her name was Natasha. And I scrolled through my Snapchat to try and find someone who would watch it whose name looked like Natasha on Snap. And I reached out, and then I started working with Forbes. It's literally how it happened. My second example, so now I live in London, because when I came back from New York, I was like, Bristol is too small. I have to move to London. Yes, it's expensive, but there's ways to find it. And if you're in uni, the best thing I would say, like, if you've got like a couple of months left or a year, start building up those connections. Start having those meetings in London. Like, I'm sure you can all find a friend, or you know someone who is in London. Perhaps you can like stay with them for a couple of weeks or whatever. You kind of just like gotta hustle down to do it to try and get someone, because I mean, London may not be the place where you want to go, where that is like that niche or that company that you want to work with is, but like you have to go to that place. So the second one is, this happened 2 days ago. I got a DM from this company called Booster Board. They make these electric skateboards. I ride around it on London all the time. It's the quickest way to get around. And I always just tag them in my stuff, right? So the second one is me being really sad that I thought I was going to be able to bring it on this trip. I have a rucksack and a carry-on, and I was like, I literally can't take both of them to Paddington and this really heavy, big skateboard. So I posted about it, and they followed me a couple of days before, and they saw that I was in London, and they literally reached out to me on Instagram DMs and was like, hey, can you drop us a line? We have potential working together. And that's because, one, I'm sharing this content, and I'm in the right place. These people here, they're actually San Francisco based. But all the brands that I work with, they have offices in London. I can get to them. The opportunities are there. When I first moved to London, like, I was meeting loads of people. I was going out, trying to connect with them. And it is all about, not being a dick. What I originally wrote on here was like, be professional, but I felt that was too corporate, so I went with this. But what I mean by it is, as well as like, we all want to do something creative, and like, I love making videos, but you have to be professional in what you do, and you have to like work hard at it. So when I was in New York, I would make sure I was available 9 till 5, because if people were going to email me or bring stuff in, I wanted to be quick at replying. You want to bring these people value if you're reaching out to them. Because at that time, I didn't know anybody. So I was trying to build relationships with people, because I knew no one when I was in New York. And the way that I was doing that was, I was like, okay, let me go on Twitter and LinkedIn. Did you guys hear my ramble about LinkedIn yesterday? Okay, I'll repeat it very briefly in a second. But same thing applies for Twitter. I was just finding, at that time, I just wanted to find other creators that I could connect with, or maybe grab a drink with and get to know. So I was reaching out to them on Twitter, and I was finding out what they needed, how I could bring that person some value. So perhaps you're a musician, and you see a filmmaker in London who needs some music for their videos. Maybe reach out and be like, hey, I see the music you're using, it's kind of cool, but the music I make is actually quite suited to the videos you do. Do you want to check it out and maybe use it? And then it's just about starting those connections. And that's what I did on LinkedIn. I would find a ton of people that I wanted to follow in the industry, add them all, and then I'd just be posting things. And you get loads of DMs, you get messages from tons of people just trying to spam you, but you just you get rid of them. You can tell the ones that are fake, or people just trying to sell you stuff. But so for example, on LinkedIn, the guys from Lad Bible reached out to me. They're like, hey, we're opening this new studio. Would you meet up for a coffee and talk? Now, nothing came from that. We had a coffee. It's good to know them. I have a connection with them. And I'm in a private group for their filmmakers on Facebook. I haven't done any jobs for them, or I haven't got any money from them. But that's not what I was going in there for, right? Perhaps 2 years down the line, something will come from it. So it's just about planting these seeds and building out these relationships. Because at the end of the day, all these brands are people. And it's actually quite funny, because we're in a weird time where brands want to be people, and people want to be brands. It's really weird. It's back to front. These brands want to connect with you like a friend or whatever. So it's about building all these things out and trying to give as much value as possible. And then you got this whole thing, right? Working for free versus paid work. And I'm really, I hate when you get that email and someone's like, oh yeah, will you do this for the exposure? Whatever, right? And we're not going to pay, but we'll do it for exposure. And it really depends where you are. So in New York, when I started this trip, I had enough runway for 4 months to live. And at the time, when I really first got there, I wasn't expecting to be making money from this thing. Actually, I thought I couldn't make money because I was on a travel visa. So I'd reach out to all these brands, and I'd be I'd find their accounts on Instagram. At that time, I wanted to travel a lot. So I found travel brands, and I was like, hey, so you guys aren't really doing Instagram stories, or you kind of are, but I'm in New York right now. I'm in a location that'll look really cool that a lot of people in the world want to see, and I can make you the best Instagram story you've seen. Because I knew it was going to be much better than anything they had ever done. So I was like, I'll do it for you for free. It took me half a day, and at that point, I was just willing to do those things, and I thought it would be fun, and I wanted to build out a relationship because I knew they did trips all around the world. And they loved it, and it went really well. I stayed in touch, and when I came back to London, we met up a few times just for a coffee. They just wanted to hear more about Snap. And I was like, okay, I can fit that in, let's do it. And then a couple of months later, they were like, hey, Andy, do you want to go around Europe for 6 weeks, and we'll pay you, and all you have to do is Snapchat the whole experience and put it on your account, and you can do one for your account and just do one for our account. And I was like, okay, great. That sounds awesome. And then that led to paid work. Now, after establishing myself a bit more, I'm in a fortunate place where I can be I don't need to work for free. I have a rate, and originally my rate was super low. I think the first just freelance filming gig I did, I think I charged something like £150. And I didn't really think about how long that shoot would take me, what was required of it. And they wanted to do more work. And I was like, okay, well, over time, that'll add up. But it's nothing, and especially in London. Rent in London is anywhere between 500 to, I don't know, around, I pay, with bills, I'm probably paying about £1,000 a month to live and all that stuff. And it seems big and daunting, but brands also have a lot of money. And you will be shocked to see how much, once you have started getting gigs that pay well, and you have your rate and you're confident in what you do, how much those things will pay out. So I was also reached out to by like a whiskey company in Glasgow. And they were like, yeah, we really love your Snapchats. Will you make us like a TV ad, like, not TV ad, just like a 16:9 video of this whiskey thing. And I was like, this is really weird. This is not like what I do. And I was really busy. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna say no. Like, I'll quote them something like £500, like a day for it. And they're like, great, can we have 5 days of your time? And I'm like, whoa. And I was super busy. I was about to fly to New York for the Shorty Awards. And I was like, okay, well, we have to make this work. And then I got that, and then I started working with other brands that would pay that and more. And then you kind of have your base rate. And then you'll, like, through all these connections, you're going to like find other, like, you're gonna know your rate, and people are like, and you should stand by that. And like, you can justify those things when you break it down. You're like, well, this is how long this is gonna take. I have to do pre-production. I have to, like, I guess some of you also do music as well, but like being creative isn't a thing that you can just like turn off and on, right? It's not like, you can't do it by time. At the moment, I work on project by project basis, depending on what they're offering. But it's really important to just like, be sure of yourself and have like a set rate there. So the way that I do make money, and there's 2 different ways. Oh, this is really awkward. I'm wearing the exact same outfit as in that photo. Literally to the T. Okay. So I work with Samsung a lot and free. Wow, okay. It's just like, oh my God. So I work with brands in 2 ways. I work with, like, this is the traditional, like, online influencer post, right? Like, you see a post and it says something about the sponsor of the new Samsung phone, blah, blah, blah. So the reason I took this deal, and I work with Samsung and free a lot, is because my whole thing is, it's about gear and it's telling the story. And if they're gonna bring out a new camera with a super wide lens, I wanna try that out and I'm gonna use it, and it just makes sense. I travel, and when I'm always traveling with free, I have like their sims when I'm roaming abroad. Last year they sent me to Peru for like 7 days to make videos and post them on my account. And it just fits, because it's quite a natural thing. Also, if you guys can see my camera in the middle, that like bendy tripod thing, that brand is called Joby. I work with them really closely. They reached out to me and they were like, hey, will you be an ambassador for us? All you have to do is just like, we'll give you products. And originally, actually, they were like, okay, we'll just give you products. And you just have to like show them in your stories or whatever. You don't need to talk about it, just like have it in, make it natural. And that was a natural fit, because I already use Gorilla Pods. And at this point, I'm like, I used to break them a lot. Like, and they were like, okay, well, like, I'm just getting free gear. So I was like, okay, great. And after a time, that also turned into a year-long ambassadorship. So now they pay me a salary every year to use their products. So I get free gear, and I just have to occasionally like show it in my work. And I want to as well, because it fits in really naturally with what I do. And the same with these guys. I made an entire story on the Samsung phone, posted it, it was great, and people loved it. They really did. But I don't do this like all the time. You see a lot of people online just like selling like everything. I have a friend, she's a lovely person, but every time I watch a story, she's advertising some sort of TV show or some really crap app or stuff like that. And when she posts that she's at a film premiere, I know that film's gonna be crap, because she always gets invited to the ones that are really bad. But like, I'm just done with it. And like, I don't want to engage with her stuff because I don't feel like it's like legit, right? Whereas I will only, that's one way I make money, and I only do that way if like it fits really well. So that's only like a small portion of what I do. But the other part is, I like work behind the scenes for these brands and these clients. I will make stories for their account. Like, I can have full creative control, make a story how I would, and it doesn't have to like affect my personal account or whatever. So I can make content for them. So those are 2 ways that I do it. A lot of clients, once they see your work and what you're doing, the best ones you'll find are the ones that let you kind of have your reign on it. And you will find clients that are like, oh, well, no, maybe could you do this? Or like you're recording some music for an advert, and like they've brought you on for a reason, but they want real control over it. I try to avoid them. They just tend to not really work that well. But the dudes at Free, they are literally like really close friends with me now. Like, we've built up a relationship a lot, and like, I don't work with them all the time, but like we get on really well, and it's great to just like kind of have those connections, because they are just people at the end of the day. And I actually have my friend David, who took this photo. He is the social media manager for Free. He recorded a video for me just saying what they're looking for, like from like upcoming creators, and like what they are kind of like looking for when they want to produce content online. Come on, David.
A way of doing that is across social media. We're looking for young talent all the time. We know that ourselves, we're not always going to come up with the most creative output, so we look for people that are out there doing incredible stuff. They don't necessarily have to have the biggest reach, but we want someone who is able to create a piece of content that is going to stop someone dead while they're scrolling and make them take in the message that we're trying to get across.
So the biggest thing that I took from what he said there is that they're not looking for people with the biggest following. We're in this horrible age where Instagram is like a whole place where you go on it, and it's like you just see the best of everyone's lives, right? Everyone does it, I do it, my videos look really nice, and you only see like 10% of the time it took to make those things. I'm like sat behind a laptop most of the time going crazy. And I'm making this type of content, and we're in a phase where it's like all about likes and followers and views and all that shit, and all that shit is artificial and like can be faked. It's not real. What brands want now is engagement and good quality work. It's kind of what they're looking for, right? Snapchat was great back in the day because no one could see your views. You had to judge people's work on the quality of it, right? I've done this myself. I've gone on YouTube and you're like, I'm looking for a tutorial or a video or something like that. And you're like, oh, well, this one has more views, so I'm gonna watch that because maybe it's better. But it's not always the case. It's not always the way. And it's the same with Craig. So Free, they don't necessarily want the biggest people in the world. Yes, they will probably work with influencers who are like, have millions of followers if they want to, if they're like selling a particular thing and they want to reach masses, okay, makes sense. But it's all about the content and like the work you make. And that's the same with a lot of brands. So like in this age of like Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, and people like get discouraged, or like I see so many creators in London. It's all about their views and the followers for them, and that's a game. That's a short-term thing. It's not going to work. You got to be long-term, and you got to be patient. And if you just work on your craft and making it as good as possible, it's going to shine. It's going to come through. So like, yeah, I don't know. Ignore all that bullshit you see on Instagram and like that type of world. And this is like kind of maybe like oversaid, or it's like you see all these motivational speakers and stuff, but you literally do have to work for what you want. If you love what you do that much, it's not gonna feel like work. You're gonna wanna put in the time. You're gonna wanna spend all your days doing it. Like, I love getting up and being able to make a video every single day, or edit a video. It's a real privilege to be able to do that. And to me, it doesn't really seem like work. I'm doing it. But I would say work smart. Don't necessarily work hard. Like, because sometimes you can be like, oh, I'm busy, or I'm like, what are you actually doing? Like, how much time are you spending doing X, Y, or Z? I've been a big fan of the moment of listening to podcasts that talk about like being productive and working smart. I went on my screen time the other day on Instagram, and I saw that like my average daily like use of it was something like 45 minutes. And I'm like, I'm not posting that much content. What the hell am I doing on Instagram for 45 minutes of my day? So I set a timer on it to like, so I don't go over it. But what I've started to do is like, okay, well, I always complain that I don't have a lot of time to do other things. Like, I'm like, oh, well, like maybe I should go out on a run. But like, oh, I've got to finish this video. Well, like, if I'm not on Instagram for 45 minutes of my whole day, I've got an extra 45 minutes to go do a run, right? And like, I find like, that makes me even more productive. It takes my mind off things. It makes me feel good, right? Like self-care and all that. And I do want to work, and it makes me want to work more. But it's working smart, and you do have to put in the time to do it, right? Like a lot of these things don't come overnight. And I feel like in the last, coming up to 3 years, I guess, that I've been doing this like every single day, and I love it. But I feel like on like a big ladder of where I want to be, I'm on like the second rung, right? Like like maybe in 10 years time, like that's when something like really cool will be happening. It would be great to do like, I don't know, like direct like a Netflix show or something, or a documentary. I don't necessarily want to be like a feature film director. I'm not too sure. It might pivot, it may change. But I always feel there's like so much to learn, but you just kind of have to put in the time. And if it's something you really love to do, then you're going to want to do it. But perhaps maybe you're like, oh, well, I don't know. Maybe, then that's fine. Maybe that wants to be your hobby. For me, that was music. I had to pivot a bit until I found something that I really like doing. So that's it. I want to now hand this over to you guys because I want to like answer whatever questions you may have, or we can all talk outside one-on-one about whatever you want. Like literally, we can go into anything.
Hi, all right, hi.
Hey, man.
You talked about a lot about like working with brands and how to actually connect with them, and obviously the the importance of all these extra factors.
Yes.
But when considering other creators themselves, how would you say is kind of not just the best way to connect, but to be like mutually noticed, and how valuable has that been to you?
For creators?
Yeah, for other creators.
Okay, yeah. So a tactic a lot of people do is like, great, I want to, I don't know, I want to be a YouTuber, so let me reach out to, I make a sick video, so I'm going to DM like this creator, and like he's going to get back to me or whatever. And like, you kind of have to, and like that's not going to be the case, right? Like if you're just reaching out like to a lot of people, it's not going to happen. You need to find someone, like, because if you're trying to reach like KSI or someone like that, right? You've got millions of subscribers, why would they see that? But there's circles around them, like maybe there's specific people you want to meet. But in that world, maybe look at people who are doing similar stuff to you that you can bring value to. And perhaps they have like a similar, like in similar fields or similar areas. So when I was in New York, I wanted to meet a lot of people in like the tech creative type scene. And so I'd find like, and you kind of see them all like, especially on Twitter, you can see who they interact with and stuff. And what I think you'll find is you'll find like other creators that maybe are smaller, maybe they're more easy to reach out to, who make really good stuff, and connecting with those people and just building relationships there. And I used to go to events a lot. I would try to find like an event that was happening and go along and just talk to that person and like, be like, hey, this is what I do. Like, I think like what you do is quite similar. I'd love you to like, maybe like, do you want to check it out or whatever? Or like, perhaps we can have a talk down the line. And then things like naturally come. And then collaborating is a great way to grow or to like find an audience. That's kind of how I did it on Snapchat in the first place. And I think just like keeping at that is really important. Just like spending time, like Instagram, like, yeah, don't reach out to these people who are huge, but you do have DMs where you can contact a lot of people. So go through like the Discover page and just like look for people perhaps in your area who do similar things and just like engage in their work. Or just be like, hey, the other day I wanted to meet more creators in London who do like After Effects and stuff, because I'm putting on an event. I asked my friend, he's like, oh yeah, I know so-and-so and so-and-so, let me put you in touch. They'll do that. Or I'll find someone else and like, just like comment on their work. And you'll find most people are responsive and will get back to you. So yeah, just like, you kind of have to just put yourself out there and try it. And also, I'm quite an introvert. When I went to New York, like the thought of going to this event and like meeting people scared the shit out of me. It was like a DJI event, like a drone event. And I knew that all the big creators in New York were going to be there. I was like, okay. And like, I didn't have my friend who I was staying with me, and she doesn't even do what we do anyway. I was like, I'm just going to have to go in there, and I'm just going to have to talk to people. Yeah, and actually I found like putting myself out there was like, I was like, oh wow, like that was quite like uncomfortable, but like I really got something from it. It really pushed me on. Sorry, that was like a really long-winded answer. I hope
No,
was
it's
okay.
good. Yeah, no. Yeah, I think definitely the whole getting yourself out there is very important because, as you're saying it, I do realise that obviously other creators are going to be looking to do the same thing, pretty much. But yeah, I think it's about kind of knocking down that boundary where you think, oh, you know, they'll be interested in something else, but no, you know, you're all trying to succeed. So.
And what's the worst thing that's going to happen if you reach out to one of these people? You don't get a reply?
Yeah.
So move on to the next person, right? You keep doing that. And you don't take it personally. There's a lot of people there. I have a friend in New York called Sarah Dietschy. She's like a really cool like tech YouTube person. And I met her at this DJI event. And she's like, yeah, lovely to meet you. I was like, yeah, I would love to grab coffee sometime soon. She's like, cool. And then we were messaging on Twitter, and then she just stopped replying. I didn't take it badly because like, obviously she's busy as well, or like DMs, whatever. She's quite a big YouTuber, so like, whatever. I was like, okay, cool. 2 months later, I was back there. Turns out my friend Brandon was like one of her good friends, and we met at an event, and then like things just kept going from there, and like, so like, yeah, don't take those things personally as well.
Yeah, it's good to hear. Thank you.
Any other questions?
How do you find time for like friends and family when your life's so busy?
That's a good one. Yeah, that is like, especially in the last year and a half, that has become something that's quite important to me. First year, I was just like making these videos every day and whatever. And then I actually met my girlfriend in London, and I was like, oh, I do have time that I can spend like hanging out with her, or like, oh, I can like, if I just like chill out for a bit on the weekend with her, I'm not like, the world isn't gonna end or whatever. So I think you do just have to like prioritize that time in, and like just work out what is the most important thing to you. Perhaps like, for me, it's like my close friends, right? Like staying in touch with my family, they're not in London. But for me, like my biggest like personal connection is my girlfriend, so I make time for her. Perhaps there's friends that want to meet up in London, and you gotta really like, it sounds harsh, but you gotta like prioritize that time. Like a lot of my friends in London, everyone is also working and being creative. But if someone was like, hey, let's just hang out for a couple of hours, I'm like, what are we gonna do? I'll just chill or whatever. It's like, I don't know, we don't really have that time. I was quite fortunate last night. I was here, had some downtime, and I wanted to go in to see my friends from uni who are still here. We had a good couple of hours, and it was really good. But it's just like when and how that happens. Like I found, as soon as I started finding that it was working for me, the way I was doing work, I really wanted to like focus on that. And like, I think your friends understand. And also, we're in a world where like you can just, we're so connected, right? Maybe it's too much sometimes, but like, I don't know, I just find messaging people and staying in touch that way a lot also helps.
For sure.
Yeah.
Hi. So you say your entire career started off because you're doing filming on your phone on a very connected, the world of social media. It's easy platforms, nice to put things out there. Would you say from your experiences and your connections, are there people out there or potential routes for the more like feature film cinematic route of filmmakers starting off with zero budget, with their camera phones kind of thing? What sort of route? Well, is there a route that filmmaker can go that way?
This is the route. People, if we had some like old TV guys in here or whatever, or film, they would be like, no, you have to go to film school and you have to study. That is the traditional route. Fuck that. That doesn't matter anymore, right? TV is going to be gone soon. We're in a completely new world, right? Do you do TV? No, but like Netflix is here, right? Like traditional, right? Like, and you just have to pivot with these things. Same with radio. We were talking yesterday. Podcasts are the biggest things ever, right? We go into that. But right now, but you have to pivot with what's happening in the world, right? Like, Netflix are taking on like other types of creators, and also people are they're starting out on YouTube. I've forgotten her name, but there's a YouTuber, and she's just got a late night show in America. And she was a YouTuber, right? She's now moved into that. I prefer this social world because I have some friends who made a documentary for Lonely Planet. They got sent all over the world. They made 3 seasons. Still hasn't gone out. That was 3 years ago. It's like shelved somewhere. And then they started Facebook. They started Facebook Watch, and they could put it out there themselves. So all these big channels they're scared of like all these online platforms and what people can do. So I think by the time you want to make your feature film, when you get to that, if you're posting online and you're honing your filmmaking and your craft, like that is going to be like your portfolio. It's going to be there, right? Someone asked me a couple of months ago for a CV, and I was like, what? I'm like, no, I don't have a CV. And I was like, look on my Instagram. So I think I actually made a video, and I was like, well, I don't have a CV, and it was like a little emoji of a CV being thrown in a bin. And I was like, but I can show you what I do, because this is my video here. Like, I don't know, that old one, it's just bizarre. Like, that's not how it's gonna go, and those people will get left behind. The BBC are even pivoting. They take a long time because they're like such a huge company, but like they started iPlayer in what, like 2007? They were probably working on that in like 2003 because they know where it's going. And eventually it is all gonna be on-demand streaming services. So these traditional filmmakers, they're gonna have what I really wanna do when I'm old, like, I don't know when I'm old. When I'm in like my 40s and 50s, I'd love to do like the David Attenborough style things, right? Learn to film. I don't have that traditional background of being in those worlds, but it's gonna be the people you know, and I'm gonna have all this experience behind me, and like I'm wanting to make these more longer form videos, right? Like those explainer ones you saw. So it's gonna be all about that. So like I wouldn't worry about those like traditional paths or like what people say like that, because decision makers are also gonna be changing as well as time goes on.
Thank you.
Cool. I think we're done. Thank you, guys.